This lesson is on solving square root equations. Now, there is three main parts to how to solve square root equations. The first one would be to isolate the radical. Second, to square both sides. The third, to simplify and solve. Now, to double check your answers, we always recommend that you check the solutions. Now, this problem's already worked out for you, and we see that this is a problem. 48 equals the square root of 18d. The whole idea is to solve for d. Now, first thing we need to do is get rid of the square root. We need to take the reciprocal, because the square root means a 1/2. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So this is the reason to squaring to get rid of the square root. Now 48 squared is 2304. It equals 18d since the square root and 2 cross out. In order to solve for d, we need to get rid of that 18 in front of the variable, so we divide both sides by 18, and we see that 2304 divided by 18 is 128. To double check, is 18 times 128 2304, and when we take the square root of it, does it equal 48? Now here's a couple of problems that we could try. Now this one's a little bit different because besides the square root, we have a 5 being added to the square root equation. The easiest thing to do this, we need to isolate the radical. So we need to get rid of that plus 5. Now what is the opposite of a plus 5? Very good. We will have to subtract the minus 5 from both sides. On the left side, they cross out, and on the right side, they become 9 minus 5, which is 4. So what do we have left over? The square root of x minus 3 equals to 4. Now, how would we get rid of the square root? By doing step 2, which is squaring both sides. As we do that, we should know that the square root on the left side will disappear, and 4 squared is 16. So we end up with x minus 3 equals to 16. Now we have to simplify and solve for x. We have x minus 3. How do you get rid of a minus 3? Well, we have to add the 3 to both sides. As we add the 3, we should know the ones on the left side cancel, and 16 plus 3 is 19. Now let's check our solution. Is 5 plus the square root of 19 minus 3 9? Well, what's 19 minus 3? That becomes 16. Is 5 plus the square root of 16 equal to 9? Square root of 16 is 4. Is 4 plus 5 9? It sure is. So 9 plus 9 equals to 9. That equation checks off. Now let's look at the one on the right side. Square root of x plus 5, and then we have a minus 3 outside of the square root, equals to x. Now in this one, the first thing we need to do is add that 3 to both sides. When we add the 3 to both sides, we end up with the square root of x plus 5 equals to x plus 3. Step 2 would say for us to square both sides. So we need to square both sides. As we do that, the square root on the left side cancels, and x plus 3 will require us to do an additional step. So that x plus 3 squared, we have to write it down twice, and we will have to do the FOIL method. Now we have done FOIL before in class. Hopefully we remember that we will have to do the first, the outer, the inner, and the last. And when we multiply x times x, it becomes x squared. When we multiply x times 3 is 3x, and then 3 times x, which are the ones inside, is 3x also. Then 3 times 3, which are the last ones, that becomes 9. So the idea here is to put everything on the same side because it ends in squared. We will combine the 3 x's together, and that would give us a 6x. So x squared plus 6x plus 9. But we need to move over that x and the 5 to the other side. So we will subtract the x, subtract the 5. So then Looking at the work that's already done here, we see that x squared plus 6x minus x is 5x, and then 9 minus 5 is 4. If we remember how to simplify or factor out polynomials, quadratic equations, we need to look for the two numbers that multiply to 4 but add up to 5. So 4 and 1, when we multiply them, will give us 4. And when we add 4 and 1, doesn't it add up to 5? It sure does. So this is why we have x plus 4 and x plus 1. But since we're actually looking for solutions, we need to set them equal to 0. When you set them equal to 0, then you solve for x. So the first one, x plus 4 equals to 0. You move the 4 from both sides. Since it's a plus, we're subtracting, so that becomes x minus 4. Now, on the other one, it was x plus 1 equals to 0, so we need to subtract 1 from both sides, so that becomes x minus 1. Now, the solution of x equals a negative 4 will not check, but the solution of x minus 1 is the correct solution.